Welcome to the Meeple Syrup Aftershow, designers discussing design. We're on episode 77, titled Bored with Tiffany. Sadly, Tiffany did not survive to this level. We lost her on our quest during the regular
She
episode.
totally didn't level up.
She did not level up, but Chris Bryan did, so we're happy to have him here, and who knows, we might have a surprise drop-in guest as well during this after show. But we were chatting a little bit about the relationship of media in the game industry, tackling it from a few different directions. One thing that we didn't touch on, which is actually kind of relevant to all of us, and I know this is something that Tyler has been doing a lot of research on, so I'd love to hear his thoughts on this, but also I'd love to hear what Board with Life has done, and that comes with funding. I mean, there's just a real practical reality to doing media. It costs time and energy and sometimes money, so curious from everyone, we can talk a little bit from the Meeple Syrup perspective, but what works, what's the pros and cons? What do you think the future of funding for media is? All that fun stuff.
Go ahead first, Chris.
From our point of view, the only funding we've done, well, not the only funding. The main funding we did for season 2 was we did a Kickstarter.
Yep.
That was, we doubled our goal, and it was very successful. I think the big part of that, why we were successful, is we did season 1 out of our own pockets. People kind of saw a product and liked us before we tried to get money for it. I don't think anyone would have cared had we not already done it.
Right. They wouldn't have necessarily envisioned what they were coming alongside.
You showed them the vision,
right,
and you delivered on a product.
Yeah, and so that was great, and it allowed us to get a bunch of equipment and stuff. We still spent more money on season 2 than we made on the thing, but the thing was, most of the money was spent on physical stuff, so like sound recorders,
right? So stuff that'll
lights.
Last for the next season,
exactly,
least, right?
And so that was really good. We've still never, none of us make any money. Our guest stars and people that travel in and stuff, we pay them some, but still not anything compared to what they would normally get paid. Right? Yeah. I mean, we paid Rich Summer in board games, so
there you go.
Right there you go. You don't pay scale, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, exactly. And so we did that. Now we're looking at other things, because we do the ongoing stuff is every week I do the news, and then we have a weekly podcast where we play Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah. And we're looking at doing a Patreon for those, and kind of splitting the funding, because
interesting.
Because stuff like Board with Life, the series, needed a Kickstarter where we needed a whole lot of money all at once to make the show.
Right, sure.
But the news, honestly, it's gotten to the point where it's a lot of work for me, and it's not that it really costs me any money, it's just that
it's just time.
Yeah, and it's for it to make sense for me to keep doing in my life, I need to get something for it.
Something to help compensate and justify
exactly
all that time and work.
Right.
What Daryl and I used to explain is that, if we don't do this, our wives won't let us do it anymore.
Well, that's the thing. I got married 6 months ago, and suddenly time is has a totally different value. My 4 nights a week of 4 different board game groups suddenly are not an appropriate amount of time.
Too much.
What is it about that ring that makes the ring that makes the difference? Eh?
And so, so it's a thing where, time has a different value than it did when I started this thing. And then the podcast actually does have some costs associated with it.
Sure.
And again, it's just our time is more valuable, and if people like it, and that's the thing too, is people want to support people they like. That's something really cool about the board games. So we constantly get people going how do I give you money? And we're just you can't give us money, basically. And I think all of that is good, and I think Patreon's awesome for that. When we did our Kickstarter, Patreon it probably existed, but it wasn't really a thing that people were utilizing.
Big. Pretty rare. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's that. I think if you are going to go that route and you want funding to do a thing, you need to, I've been doing the news every week for 3 years now, and I've never charged for it, so you need to do that for a while.
A proven track record yet again, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's why I brought up, I know Tyler's been looking into this a lot, because, I mean, how many videos have you done now? You're well over 400.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness, no, sir. Goodness, no. 282.
so not well over.
Sorry.
Over 200.
200 wasn't over a while ago.
I will hit 300 in the next 2 weeks, because I am so far behind. But 300 in a year and 2 months.
And that's crazy, because we have only done, just to put it into perspective, Meeple Syrup, we've only done, I think, 150.
Yeah, and we do weekly shows.
So, like, it just blows my mind that we've been doing this for, coming up to 2 years, and you've been doing it for 1 year.
Yeah.
For free. And just putting out an insane amount of content.
Yeah, and your content, though it's, in the end, shorter, obviously, it's a lot more effort in terms of scripting and that kind of thing. I mean, we put up a stream and we ask questions and we interact with the audience and we book our guests.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
It's very difficult. I mean, yes, I get paid in board games, some people would say, and I've had very at-length conversations with other reviewers of, oh, you need to start charging for this. Well, yeah, but I also need to build my brand, and some videos might have 2,500 views, some videos might have 3,000, some videos might have 20 views. All depends where it's posted, what interest there is in the game. I just make the video if that company wants to use it as an outlet and say, hey, look what this guy did. Well, I mean, that's up to them. I don't know. I get frustrated sometimes because it is a lot of work that I'm doing for free, and sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, sometimes helping people, do $76,000 Kickstarters, and I'm like, maybe I could charge them $100 to do this for them.
Totally. Yeah. Maybe we could have spared $100.
Yeah. I think there's something on, the back end that could happen. If you can make an arrangement, like let's say, I mean, and that's like, it's not necessarily doing it on spec, but it's the idea of like, hey, if you fund, how about you spread some of that in the way that I gave you what you needed, which was a playthrough video or a review video or whatever. You said you had nothing at the beginning. If your thing funds, you're going to have what you asked for, or more than what you asked for. So build something in to that to pay back in some way. I think that might be legit.
Talking about someone who gives a lot.
That's right.
And in the community, people have come alongside and supported him back. You got the JR Honeycutt in the house.
JR, can you cut some promo for us? Because I love it when you do it.
Absolutely. Guys, my name is JR Honeycutt, and I'm here to talk to you about the most amazing, transcendent, fantastic show about game design you've ever heard, north of the border, south of the border, east, west of the border, up, down, around, anywhere you want to go. The show for you is the Meeple Service Show, coming live from Canada in 2016 with my friends, Double Post Managers, Canadian national hero, and the Godfather himself.
Oh!
Sin Fong Lim, everybody. The Meeple Service Show.
I like it.
Thank you so much.
I love it.
So what's going on, JR?
Not much. I'm actually just about to go to bed, but then Daryl sent me the link, and I was like, I'm going to say hi to my friends.
Yeah, I wore the Nerd Nighter shirt the other night.
I appreciate it, man.
It is
Thank
very
you.
comfy. I like
Did
it.
you survive the tornadoes?
Oh my gosh. It wasn't bad. We did get a ton of hail, but Andrew, like during our show, Ace had to like disconnect and jump into the closet.
Yeah, I was
curious.
Yeah, we had like I was driving up from a meeting and there were like tornadoes touching down.
The tornado touched down across the street from his house.
Yeah, like it's Texas, so I assume that's like when it snows for you guys,
right?
Because it happens literally like
tornado as much as it snows here.
Well, yeah, I mean, we actually get twisters here too. But.
Really?
Yeah, we just got a twister recently. I got hailed like crazy.
Yeah,
it touched down not too far from here.
This season, every like maybe 2 weeks, we'll have tornadoes.
2 weeks?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
We're like in the tornado alley, they call it.
Oh my goodness, that scares me.
When are ours mostly, Tyler? Or like end of summer?
Yeah, I think so.
See, End of Summer storms up Ilderton and all that. It's just basically farm fields.
Yeah.
So it just rips right across the north end of our city.
Or Godrich every 7 years.
It goes up.
Godrich just gets destroyed every 7 years. It's like a plague that comes and descends upon Godrich.
Beautiful beach town. Beautiful beach town.
There's got to be a trailer park
Actually,
near
if you go there in the summer, you may also find Jason Kotarski there.
Yes. It's a secret little hiding spot.
Yeah, he has friends up there, and he goes and camps out in games and stuff. So good times. So JR's gone. Where's he going?
Tornadoes, man.
Tornadoes. He's hiding.
Tornadoes. on the note of tornadoes, I feel like there's not enough tornado games in this world.
This is kind of tangential. I had a dexterity game I was playing with for a little while.
Yeah.
Called Flick Adventures. And my favorite mechanic in the whole thing was there would be a sandstorm where you took a big wooden disc and put it on its side and flicked it like a coin, and anybody it would knock out.
Nice.
And that was everyone's favorite when they drew the sandstorm card. They were just so excited.
That is a fun mechanic.
So Chris, if you could take that game, that little part of the game, and make it into a bigger game, what would that look like?
An entire thing based around like the dexterity mechanic of the spinning
sandstorm.
disc.
Yeah. No, I'm not kidding, because I'll push this in a direction once you start talking. Go.
It'll be Dune. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, so you're
Spice must flow.
Yeah, you're on like a sci-fi desert planet, and like at the end of each round that will go, and let's say it's a worker placement game, but
Nice.
that is a thing, and you can bid influence
spots. Nice.
on like the Tornado God track, where you can influence to be the one that flicks it, and you can knock other people's workers off, and then you have scavengers after they've been knocked off. Everybody has some scavengers that can run onto their spots and kind of pick up the missing stuff.
Nice.
That could be neat.
I just thought of a tornado game that actually.
Okay, go ahead.
Tornado Ellie.
Oh yeah.
That was Hooch and Friends.
Hooch had something tornado. Yeah.
That's it.
And
It's
then,
you like stack while it like spins. I forget how it.
Yeah. And then I know that Eric Lalonde, not Eric Lang. Eric Lalonde is doing a storm chaser game.
Oh, cool! Twister the game.
Well, see, a Storm Chaser game would be okay, because really, who wants to play a game where people's houses get destroyed, lives lost, cattle gone, and just,
I don't know, man.
insurance companies paying out everything?
It's like cleaning up Agricola.
Yeah. I would say anyone that has kids under the age of 12.
Yeah. Well, it's like Downfall of Pompeii. That's super fun.
Yeah.
Throwing people in the volcanoes. Come on.
No, my reason for asking, Chris, is that I know that a publisher of fine dexterity games is looking for their next fine dexterity game. So if you can think of something, let me know, and we'll put you in contact.
Wow.
Yeah, that sounds great.
I got a new version of Flick 'em Up right here.
Hey.
That is the publisher.
Spoiler
alert. Hey JR, what are you doing? Oh,
I'm loving it. I'm loving that he's dancing, but I'm curious, what's up with you, bro?
I'm just dancing.
What's up with some of the stuff you're working on? I mean, it's weird that we don't regularly have you as a guest, because you are now not only a designer of many things, but you develop things and do all this work for like different designers and companies and you name it. What are some stuff you're working on, dude?
I've gotten very lucky in that I have sort of become like the legacy developer in some ways.
Ba-boom! Mic drop.
Yeah, like I get to have a lot of private conversations about very cool game ideas. But right now, well, the game that I was working on the last time I was on the show was Seafall.
Right.
And Seafall, of course, designed by Rob, is already available for pre-order on Cool Stuff Inc. and will be available for pre-order soon. And it's going to be.
You might recognize a specific name on the rule book. I think you got to see that recently.
Yeah, Kevin Wilson is the original developer of that game, which I didn't know. When Rob asked me, he was like, "Yeah, I had a developer before, and it's for whatever reason it didn't work out, so I'm going to bring you in to finish it." And I was like, "Okay, cool." I didn't know that the original developer was freaking Kevin Wilson. It's like, wow, so my name is sandwiched in between two of the best designers that I've ever had the opportunity to speak with.
Yeah, there you go.
Which is pretty cool. So Seafall is done. Actually, Dirk and I had the conversation tonight. We sent the email that said, "Is Tesla versus Edison expansion done?" Yes, it's done.
Nice.
Cards are locked. Files are locked as of today.
I'm
Now,
excited to try that.
Don't quote me on that. That may not end up being true. You guys know how this goes, but at least for right now,
Right
I
now,
think we're done.
this moment, you have a little mental relief.
That's right. Just
Oh
in
yeah,
time
we're
to,
so close to pressing print on a few things that it's like, is it done?
Yeah.
Somebody needs to feed back to me that it's done, that I can tell them it's done, and we can press print.
Well, the interesting thing is we're taking the game to Kickstarter in April. I'm not sure exactly the day, but probably the second half of April. The expansion, which is really cool. And I've been developing this thing for 4 months, and I've gotten to poke through these systems and really get to know Tesla versus Edison really well, which is a game that I hadn't played before I accepted the job to develop it, which ended up turning into full-time development work for Artana. But it's really cool. It's a really interesting challenge to take a game outside the scope of something I might normally play and have to learn it really intimately. Because, for instance, I've played Concordia 22 times since January 1st of last year. Matt Gertz's phenomenal hit. One of them was with Chris at a local convention down here. I love Concordia. And if Matt Gertz is like, hey, do you want to develop the next Concordia expansion? My jaw would fall off. But I would know exactly, or at least I would have a great idea of, what pressures he was talking about because I'd played the game so much, right? But in Tesla, a lot of it has been discovering the game from a different perspective than what Dirk has as a designer.
Sure.
And it makes for some really interesting discussions and really interesting
Totally. I think that's really neat.
Yeah.
It's pushing you outside of your comfort zone as well, which is cool.
For sure. And it's a super nice gesture of him in the first place to trust me with the thing that he did such a good job with in the first place and really appreciates.
I like the money in that game.
Oh, it feels
Yeah,
so
it's
good.
pretty great.
The money's quite nice.
We had a discussion about blind bids and whether or not they were possible given that money. It all has the same back, so you can flip it over and hide how much you have. It was really interesting. So we've got that, Tesla vs. Edison Kickstarter next month.
Tell Dirk to just release the money, and I'll buy a lot of the money.
I think it's going to be available for purchase in the next Kickstarter.
Oh, nice. I would actually buy decks of that money.
Yeah, I know. It's actually really cool prototyping money, too, right?
Yep,
because
exactly.
the right denominations and everything.
Well, and Artana has done coin
Yeah.
Kickstarter before, so
Yeah, I just find
that
coins
fits.
to be heavy and bulky and costly versus money.
Yeah.
I mean,
Although I hate paper
No,
money,
but
I
I
like
think
their
they
money.
did different monies too in that Kickstarter. No.
Did they? Oh, I don't know. I don't remember. I didn't look at it because of coins, and it's like,
it was
I don't want to prototype with
before
coins.
my
It's too
time
expensive.
with the company. Another thing we've got going on, I have been working very hard. I'm the primary developer on Chronicles Bronze Age, which is the second in a series of 6 legacy games,
Echo,
each of which
Echo,
exists
Echo.
as an Echo game. They're all Echo games in the ecosystem, where each game, which is contained as a legacy game for its own, then carries forward its assets and decisions in the next game, and this is the ecosystem.
Oh, okay. So then people have been asking me because like I said, I think it is, but I don't know, and so you've just confirmed that it is a legacy game in itself, and then the decisions can carry on to the next stage.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay,
The decisions do carry on. The idea is that you will play the Stone Age game, for which I am the secondary developer. Mac Cameron, a super, super talented writer with a degree in creative writing, who's just a brilliant writer, and also a developer, lives in Boston. Great kid. I say kid because he's younger than 30. He is the primary developer on Stone Age. He and I and Rob and Dirk all work on this game regularly. In fact, he spent a few hours today working on it. And then also Bronze Age, I'm the primary developer for. Stone Age is this cooperative, competitive game of petty politics, telling the stories of these tribes in the Stone Age, and then the consequences that each of these tribes is going to have its own tribal sheet, where the decisions that you make in the game and the consequences of your actions carry forward and seed larger kingdoms that you then play in a Mediterranean-style trading game in the Bronze Age. And
It's
each
like
of these,
setting the stage for
exactly,
your next game experience.
exactly, and it is. Obviously an ambitious project, and it is large, and it is difficult, but what awesome things are not, right?
It's worth a try.
Absolutely. And I get to work with Dirk, who's a brilliant designer, and I get to work with Rob even more, which has been fantastic, obviously. And it's cool. It's nice to work on stuff that, other people are making legacy games, right? Gloomhaven's coming out, Seventh Continent is coming out, other legacy games exist.
Are you working on one, Chris?
It's a legacy game.
I'm not working on a legacy game.
You're not working on a legacy? It's not kicking around in the back of your mind a little bit?
Mm-mm. Oh, I have ideas for them, but
There you go. There you go.
No.
You can't turn that off.
I don't think I can just jump into making legacy games. I think I'm still making
JR
light
and I are
heroes.
fantasy baseball.
That's right.
Yeah.
Legacy fantasy baseball.
That's
Well,
right.
did you
Either
guys,
one of those buzzwords.
did you see the you guys saw the AEG card game that you can like add stats to and stuff like that?
Yeah, Mystic Veil.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
It's like you do news.
I've been saying since Gloom came out.
The original, yes.
Yes, that needs to be in more games. Like I'm sure it's plastic cards; they're kind of expensive, but like there's so many applications. Like I can't believe there aren't worker placement games where you chain the board and like all that's like. It really. I just knocked my microphone out. It really needs to be
baby.
Passion. Yeah. And so I'm really happy to see it in another game finally.
Yeah.
Finally.
Hey Chris, what is your schooling in? Because I know you're talking about when you're talking about narrative design and skills and things like that. What is your schooling in?
My school, like my degree.
Yeah.
I got it in radio, television, and film production with the.
Okay, that's what I thought. I thought it was something in film and stuff like that. Cool.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say marine biology, and I was so excited.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Like, he's a biology?
Yeah. No.
Oh, no, that's cool. And so you're not interested in Legacy with a background in film and production?
I very much am. I don't feel confident yet in competing in that.
Okay, I see.
I think, and also a lot of my interest, I think, falls in kind of the role-playing game side of it, and the storytelling game side of it, where creating like a construct for people to like create narrative and such.
Yes.
But I mean, if I had been designing games for 5 years, I'm sure I would be all over trying to make a Legacy game. But right now, I'm just kind of like trying to get some games.
You need 5 years experience before you dabble into Legacy.
Yeah.
I got a couple more years to go, and I can work on my Legacy.
Yeah, I'm still trying to like get a game on a shelf, and I'm still learning a ton about like what goes into. Now that I've signed a game, it turns out to be way more work after I signed it than I thought it would be.
Yeah. Surprise!
I had to shelve.
You were done.
I had to shelve a lot of my my design work in order to like develop and kind of move forward with that. So I'm still learning the industry for sure.
Here is the funny thing. I used to think when designers said, "Oh, I don't get to play that many games. I'm so busy." I was always like, "Yeah, whatever, bro. That's just a cop out. Whatever." Mm-hmm. But like it is like I played 1,800 games last year, and I have logged. My rate has gone down to like 40% of that this year.
I don't even think you want to know how many games I don't play. I don't play many games at all.
I didn't play 1,800 games last year. That's how much work I've been doing.
Yeah, you've been busy.
Working it hard.
Come on.
Yeah.
Seriously, everyone else plays 1,800.
Yeah. Chris, I'll have to get you a copy of Mythos. Well, I don't know if we're calling it that anymore. There might actually have been a game that released with that name. But we're storytelling, kind of a board game bound role-playing-ish.
Oh, is this Toy Vault?
Yeah.
Cool.
So I'll have to get you a copy of that.
Sounds really cool.
Yeah.
When is that coming out?
God only knows.
Oh,
I don't know.
But like this year.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I know that. I mean, we're supposed to have Outlander done this year.
Right.
Which is we're just trying to. We need some feedback, and then we're going to punch through the rest of the series.
Will it be at Gathering?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah. I guess I can bring that to Gathering to
Sweet.
I mean, just to play test. Ed'll be there. That'll be good. I can play test with Ed. And make sure that gets to where it should be. Because, I mean, there were strict deadlines, and then all of a sudden there's no communication about the deadline. So that usually means the IP holder had some weirdness about it. Like, no, let's push that back or whatever. Working on licensed products is fun. No, it's okay. Awesome. It's just sometimes you get in weird situations. So.
You know what? I was just thinking back. I remember, Chris, you played the Walled City at
Gen Con 2 years ago.
That's right. That was, I remember you were one of the only media people nice enough to play.
Oh, yeah.
I remember actually being that guy who was going around like, hey, anyone willing to just try it? Yeah, I'll play.
I like playing games.
But
that's good.
People, I warn you now, do not be shocked when you have a game and nobody knows who you are or never heard of your game. It's tough to convince people because time is precious at conventions. Mm-hmm. It's tough to get reviewers to see your game. I mean, a lot of media people have a lot of meetings at things like Gen Con where they're meeting with different publishers or they're getting previews of stuff. So unless your publisher is doing that kind of work and you're instead, Lone Joe trying to get the word out there, I mean, I think that's practical advice for people to really, get the right expectation. It's gonna be tough. Keep trying and.
I feel like if you're at Gen Con, I played your game at the Shut Up and Sit Down board with life gathering that we had off site, so that's good because people are just there to play games.
Yeah, that was my strategy. That was the only place I could find people to. It's like, hey, we're supposed to be playing games, right? So
I feel like when we do it at Gen Con is like midnight to 4 a.m. on those tables. Like that's the only time I get to play games, and that's kind of my favorite part of Gen Con. Like Gen Con is great for what it is, for like everything's there, but I much prefer stuff like Board Game Geek and stuff like that. Where like I pitched at Gen Con and it is just hectic and insane and a nightmare, and I pitched at Board Game Geek Con, which the negative is that it's later in the year, so most people already have their slates done.
Sure.
I was lucky enough that Action Phase liked my game enough that they shifted some stuff around to get it out in 2016. Because I pitched to them there, and it was such a better experience. Because like when I set up a couple in advance, and then I set up a couple where I'd like go to the publishers and like talk to them, and I did speed dating and stuff. And every single one of them, the game I pitched that it will now be Darwinauts. It was Galapagos Expeditions there. When I pitched it, is like a 30-minute game. Right. So every single one, I got to pitch it to them and sit down and play an entire 30-minute game. And that's every single one of them sat and talked to me about it for 30 to 45 minutes afterwards.
That's incredible quality time.
That would never, ever happen at Gen Con. Like, unless you're like Rob Daviau or somebody.
Sure. So, one of those bigwigs or like the legacy developer.
Yeah. So like, because Board Game Geek Con, nobody's like, everyone at Gen Con is hustling. Like everyone's trying to sell as many games as possible, pitch as many games as possible, all that stuff. At Board Game Geek Con, everybody's just there to play games, and like the people that are selling games, they know they're not going to sell a ton of games. That's not what it's about. Yeah. So they're not worried about letting their booth sit
different
for
expectations, different vibe.
Yeah, definitely.
So one of the funny things about BGG Con is like watching the people whose job is primarily marketing in the industry, and watching those people like watch it hit like 11 p.m. and they're like at the hotel and like don't know what to do.
Yeah, because their job is done.
Right. Like, in any other convention, that's when they go hit the bars and have drinks and
schmooze and they work it. Yeah.
So instead, they're just like cracking open beers in the middle of BGG and they're like simulating the bar experience with a room full of tables. Where like 5 feet away from them is like 7 dudes playing Container, right?
Yeah.
The most non-beer related game you could think of.
I love Container.
No, Container being the most Euro-y game I could think of.
At this time, yes.
That would
Open
be
economy.
Yeah, right. Diemacher might be even more, right?
Yeah.
I don't speak that language, so I'm sorry.
That's okay. Diemacher. So if we're talking, conventions and all that kind of stuff, and board game media. Tyler, are you actually audio? Good audio? Okay.
You're so quiet.
Yeah, you're so quiet.
You guys are having a good conversation. I don't know.
No, but
get in on it, buddy. Get in on it. This is your time to shine. Tyler, what are you thinking this year in terms of conventions and going to things, and how is that going to change your approach for your media and your social interaction? What do you think?
People will somewhat know who I am, at least. They'll recognize the shirt and go, "Oh yeah, you're that guy." Yeah, here we'll pity you, give you a game to review. Thanks for bringing some numbers our way. Hope you sell a couple copies.
I've been with you at cons, dude.
on YouTube for us. Okay.
I've been with you at cons, dude. Publishers love you.
Yeah, once they get to know me.
They love what you're doing. They love your approach.
We'll see.
2016's
gonna change, bitches.
That's gonna change.
Hey man, if you want to review Tesla versus Edison powering up from Artana, I will hook you up.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, man. It's kind of funny. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there because JR's...
Oh, wait, was that a plug for your game?
My game?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
Yeah,
I lost my train of thought.
Oh God, no, it wasn't. Not at all.
all the
Oh,
time.
because
Yeah,
it's
it's
actually
still
the rights have reverted to us, so it's no longer published by anybody. So
Guys, I'm sorry, I lost my Belfort for a second.
I lost my Belfort. I dropped my Belfort. I got to pick it up.
Get walled in here in this city.
Oh, Daryl. No, there was something else I wanted to talk about. What was it? Keep talking, guys. I'll think about it.
I am looking forward to going to Origins and meeting a lot of people that I have gotten to know over the last, 9 months.
And I think you'll have a good time there because you'll have the time and space to do that at Origins.
Yeah.
It's a much lesser. That's much less hectic than.
Yeah, because my first 5 months of getting on my feet, I didn't know anybody, what I was doing. Then after I went to Gen Con last year, that's when things really took off, and now I've gotten to chat with people over the internet and social media, as we said earlier this evening. So now I'll actually be able to go up to JR and say, "Oh, hey, JR, we've met a couple times, we've chatted, blah, blah, blah."
You could have done that anyways.
You know what it's going to be like, and maybe only JR will catch this reference, but it'll be like Jerry Maguire, where he walks the guy through the hall.
Yep.
I'm going to get to walk through the hall with Tyler, and
Everyone's
oh
gonna
yeah,
know
we've heard of you. We've heard of you. Yeah.
I'll tell you, the next Gen Con will be my 5th Gen Con. My first Gen Con was the first gaming convention I ever went to that wasn't like for tournament magic or whatever. And I didn't know anybody, and I had just started Nerd Night in DFW, and it wasn't even a thing that I really talked about yet. My second Gen Con was right after I did the first national Nerd Night. And I talked to a lot of people about Nerd Night, including people in the industry and stuff like that. The third one was like full on. We did our first Gen Con Nerd Night. Last year was like year 4, and last year it completely felt like work the entire time. like it was just work. I had what was it? I had 6 games with 6 different publishers, all pulling me 100 different directions. I had stuff that I wanted to pitch. I had a full-time job with Brad, and I had Nerd Night, and it was like just the most insanely stressful thing. And then like it hit me. I was like this is like a bellwether moment, right? Like, oh, now I'm part of the industry, and I know what it feels like to go to Gen Con, and when I'm done, feel like melting into a puddle, right? Like, oh.
So what are you gonna do this year, Jer? Because you're probably only bigger.
The same thing I do every year, Pinky.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, I'll tell you the one thing. I mean, obviously, even that aside, Gen Con is the best because it is. Occasionally, it's like the one. There are a lot of people that I see only once or twice a year, and Gen Con was one of those times. I'm really excited because Seafall is being released at Gen Con, and there was talk for a while that it might not happen for Gen Con.
Yeah.
Rob is going to get to bring his family to Gen Con.
Oh, nice.
And they've never been to a big convention with him, so they're going to get to see him at the absolute pinnacle of his game, right? Releasing Seafall to this massive thing, like
Cool.
It's been so hot, and I'm excited to watch Rob get to finally, after like 4 years of work, experience his game, his design, his work, all these things, and I can't wait to he deserves so much credit for it. I cannot wait to see that for him, right? It's gonna be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're gonna have Fantasy Baseball in print for Gen Con, I think.
Yep, it'll be there.
Yeah, so like.
Daryl, you should get like a mascot costume. I'll wear it around as the fantasy baseball guy.
Awesome. Talk to Fabio. He'll do it.
He would make that. Fabio
will definitely get you to wear a mascot suit.
That'll be hot and stinky. Just ask Michael Crow.
Just like this guy, hot and stinky.
Michael Crow's night. It's gonna be good. It's gonna like last year I had a couple games at Gen Con and it was cool, but this year getting to share that moment with Rob, getting to share that moment with Daryl is going to be fantastic, right?
Yeah, it'll be fun. So, Rob Lundy is going to be at Gen Con.
Oh, really?
Oh, is he coming? Good.
Yeah, I just was talking to him. He's confirmed to come to Gen Con, so the whole party will be together in person. So we'll have to specifically, pick an hour where we're all in the same spot at the same time.
Absolutely.
But also on the Rob Lundy note, he is booked to be on our show in 2 weeks. So
count me as an audience member for that one.
But yeah, we only have 2 more weeks before we're taking a break. I don't know if you know about this, JR, but we're breaking the news that we're taking a break over the summer, the con summer. So we have 2 more weeks. Next week we're going to be...
You guys start your summer in April?
Yep, we start... Yep. I mean, in Canada, we're just so happy to not
see the sun.
Right. See sun that we start calling it con summer. So.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes with the school season as well for me. So.
I say it's weird, Daryl. Baseball starts and maple syrup stops.
Well, on that note, today I did purchase 26 games worth of tickets.
He did.
Nice.
He did.
And I'm down to 8.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're pretty going like hotcakes. That's good.
Going like hotcakes. They're going like
I
hockey.
actually know what I wanted to say before.
Oh,
Matt Loomis was one of the ones who had commented about negativity and that kind of stuff. And I think a Matt Loomis review show would be hilarious.
Matt Loomis or James Matthew or them together.
Yes, Matt. Oh, and then it'd just be funny. I think that'd be hilarious.
I think it'd be incredible. I want to see a hate-on show.
Yeah. How to ostracize yourself from the industry in one fell swoop.
I still think it would work.
Well, I think that is kind of going back full circle into our review and media content thing. As Tiff's right. There's a lot of overwhelming positivity. I mean, I'm just reading a thread on Rahdo, and people are criticizing Rahdo for being very positive, and then people in the know say, well, no, he just doesn't want to review things he doesn't like. He doesn't want to spend the effort
to do that. He just doesn't bother reviewing other games.
Yeah. So I get it, but then I think people actually do want some more critical reviews because then they might actually, learn what they like and don't like, as opposed to just being force-fed the same hotness over and over again, right? So, anyways, just a thought.
I think with that, honestly, I think that's one of Shut Up and Sit Down's appeals that I don't think a lot of people recognize, is that they're fine being harsh to a game.
Yep.
Yeah, because they cover it up with humor.
Right.
Really
and it doesn't mean that I agree with them, but they can do that, and they've also, it's all about setting your boundaries, right? So if you're always positive and then all of a sudden you're incredibly mean to a game, that's uncalled for. It's hard.
You mean like burning one in a recycling bin?
Yeah. And so you kind of learn, and then the reviewers that you watch, you kind of understand what a bad review. It's like what Tiffany was saying, where she's like, I'm more enthusiastic about some games, where it's like she's always going to treat it as if the game is good or there's value in the game, but you can certainly tell when they actually
even read between the lines,
good. Right? Yeah. And I don't disagree that it. And I think it will happen where other media, it's not like every movie critic has to be positive about movies for fear, but it is it's a small industry, man, and everybody and your friends.
Let's talk about that for a second. About if we were paid by not anything else, if we were paid by an independent news source,
sure.
And we were paid to provide news or reviews that were unbiased, and we weren't getting copies from companies, and we weren't, would it be different? Could you be more yourself? Could you review things with a negative light on it? What do you think?
I've 100% pulled reviews that I wrote. I've pulled reviews that I wrote. I've canceled 5,000, 8,000 words before because I looked at it and I was like, I can't do this to this person that I know well. There's just no upside, right?
I think the thing is there are a couple of people that can, and some of them don't. Where, Shut Up and Sit Down, they got big enough. Yep. They can, and also people respect them, So
I think the British accents add to that level of respect.
Yeah.
Well, if I wore a monocle, would that work?
Yeah. They come from a video game background, so there is legit video game criticism, right? And that's not weird. Where I think if it's hard to have any sway or weight to what you're saying and respect for it if you're not completely established. And so then I think it is hard to get to that established point with that. So I don't know. It's hard. There's only so much money on the media side of board games right now that it is certainly a challenge to do that.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's also not fun, right? Writing a negative game review isn't fun.
Right.
And there are so many people who do reviews part-time.
Yep.
Yeah, and that for love and the passion of it, right?
Right. I tell the writers for the Nerds Table, which for context is the site that I own and the editor for. Like, only write reviews for games that you feel something about, right? Like actually that you feel something. You played it and it made you feel. And then I want your review to just be you trying to describe what that feeling was and why the game created it, right? That's it. That's it.
That's
like,
what I pay. That's what I would pay good money for, to be honest.
Right. Like, I don't need to hear, like, I don't need. I'm guilty of this too as a writer, but like, I'm not necessarily interested.
Rules replays?
Yeah, like I like a 500 words of what the premise of the game is and what you're doing and why. But then, like, I try to make sure every review that I write is like also like how this made me feel and why, right? Like, what pressures did I feel? What tensions existed? All these things. But like it's so easy, like, and it's frustrating now, like, trying to get reviews for a game like, say, Tesla. You know, you're gonna ask reviewers to do this, and it's like, all right, well, you know, they might write 500 words, and it might be like, this is what the game is, and I played it, and it was fine. You should try it or something. And it's like, okay, like, the words exist, but what passion exists, right? Like, what has been contributed here? And I would rather have a passionate negative review than dozens of bland, unemotional reviews, right?
What someone could do is they could do, like, you know, 4 out of 5 stars, except it's toilet paper rolls. So is 4 out of 5 toilet paper rolls good, or was it shitty, or are they empty toilet paper rolls? And it's like, yeah, it was a real crappy game.
I had to wipe myself with this many toilet paper rolls.
The whole night came back to poop. Bam.
Well, that's what the circular.
I think it's a thing too where a lot of people confuse overviews as reviews.
Right.
It's like, I'll give you an overview and then I'll give you like a second on, like, it was pretty good. Where, you know, nobody in like movies or video games or anything, it's not like there are people that are reviewing video games that are like explaining for 90% of it like what the mechanics of the game are, what the motivations. They're talking about how they liked playing it. So yeah, I don't know.
It's okay, Chris, if you say no, and that's fine because you probably don't know who I am at all. If you haven't seen any of my videos, that is okay. Just admit it, because people, oh yeah, I've seen your stuff. No, you haven't. Just admit it. You haven't.
I've seen your stuff, Tyler.
Because that's all I do is overview.
Tyler,
I will give like a 45-second review of it before or after.
Tyler will never say something negative on his videos.
Oh, just
and that's fine.
I've got a whole thing lined up, Daryl.
I'm poking the bear.
I don't mean to say that there isn't a value to overviews, because there are. What I'm saying is, I think, okay, well, so the Dice Tower, right? They're a review network, right?
Yep.
They're mainly overviews.
Yeah, they're overviews.
Where you look at somebody like Rahdo or Watch It Played, and they don't really do reviews.
No.
Like Rahdo does his like final thoughts as like a separate thing.
Yeah.
But like they do overviews, and they don't dress it up as if they're doing a review. Like Watch It Played, like Rodney goes like, I will not, like, on social media, he won't say whether or not he likes a game or not. He says that he won't do a rules thing for a game that he doesn't at least enjoy. Yeah. But that's what I mean is, like, those guys are not saying that they're doing reviews. They're doing overviews, where I think the Dice Tower also does overviews. And it's almost like seeing components more than anything, because they get shorter and shorter and shorter.
Yeah. But
they're obviously, like, the reviewers, right? The, like, popular reviewers. Whereas I think Shut Up and Sit Down actually does reviews.
Yeah.
So good or bad, I think that's a thing that kind of gets convoluted a little bit in our hobby.
It's interesting because... Oh, go ahead. No.
I say there's a game on Kickstarter right now, Watchmen of Destiny. Great little card game. I'm sure Rahdo did his full video, and that's, 40 minutes long or whatever, and then he has his 7-minute final thoughts. My whole video was under 5 minutes, and I'm like, okay, if you can't do your whole thing in less time,
well, that's his whole point. Is this long, drawn out, like you're with him, and that's why people can, like, it's, to me, the beauty is, and it's the same with Lance. I love how ridiculously long his videos are, and I love that he never gave in. That, like, for years, people are like, well, could you put out a short version and your long version? And he's like, no. Yeah. I'm going to talk for as long as I want. I'm going to talk longer.
He probably did because of that.
I remember when we were first going to do Board with Life, we were looking at kind of what was out there, stuff like that, and I had been following Board Games with Scott, like, since a long time ago. Like, he was really early, and then I kind of fell off with all that stuff, and so then I got back in, and like I knew about Lance and Dice Tower and all that stuff, and we were going like, man, I think we can make our episodes as long as we want to make them. There are people that are getting like thousands of views that are making 2-hour-long videos. And that's the thing too with like we do playthrough videos and we'll do the whole game, and it's like I can't sit there and watch a game played for an hour and a half. Like I watch Rahdo pretty regularly, and I learn games from Rahdo, even though obviously he often has rules mistakes, but they pop up. But I'm not learning exclusively. Like I've read the rule book, and then I'm watching how it's implemented.
Watch it play out. Yeah.
Right. And so that's what I'll do, but like I am not the type of person that can sit and watch people play a game for 2 hours. Like it does not interest me. But
you mean you don't watch Minecraft for 7 hours on YouTube? What?
I don't watch anything for 7 hours. And so I don't watch my own stuff for that long. And so like, but clearly there is that community online that, I mean, this, you know, we're 2 hours into a show and people watch this. So like there is that, and that's kind of a cool, unique thing in board games, because I don't think there's a lot of other media where people will just like sit and watch people talk about a thing they like for that long.
Yeah, it's interesting. What I wanted to get to while I was trying to interrupt Tyler rudely, sorry Tyler, no, it was me, is what JR talked about, the feels, right? You know, write about the feels, talk about the feels. More and more we're seeing in game design land, so bringing it back to game design, is the whole idea of UX and user experience. Am I breaking up?
A little, but you're good.
Okay. So user experience and UX, and taking that into account as a designer. And I'm hoping that the reviewers are kind of following that trend as well, in that they're going to be writing or talking about their user experience from the game point of view, from playing the game, as opposed to giving me the, you know, this is a nice box and it's 3mm, you know, punch board components and blah blah blah. I know all that stuff. I can open a box myself. And actually, that was the biggest thing. When people started doing unboxing videos, that amazed me.
Whoa, easy now. Easy.
It just amazed me. No, and you know what? I think...
You know what? There's such a crazy demand for that.
Yeah, some people want them, and that's fine. I mean...
At Essen and Gen Con, I don't know why there's not just someone who has a booth, but they just constantly are unboxing games.
I've been telling Aldi.
Just a live stream of unboxing.
Aldi backs every single gaming Kickstarter for Board Game Geek, and that dude has just dozens of games delivered per week. I'm telling him he should just pay somebody a minimum wage.
You know that back room at Essen where they're packing those games? They have to open them up anyways. They should just throw a live feed in the back room.
Yeah.
While they're punching them open. Someone's gonna watch that. There's gonna be so many people watching that channel. It's so creepy. And then they're gonna use them for the show up front, where then they pitch it.
And I mean, I get it. I get that people like to see it unboxed and all that kind of stuff. But I don't need to know that ahead of time. What I want to get from people when I'm looking to buy a game or purchase a game is very briefly, you know, maybe briefly the rules overview, maybe very briefly the components, but really what I want is your feels. I want to know how you felt while you played the game. What did you experience? And if there's a reviewer out there that does that really well, that guy or girl or team of guys and or girls.
Dan Thorough, spacebiff.com is your guy. He is my absolute favorite game reviewer in the industry.
Yeah, and then he needs to be, you know, shouted from the mountaintop. What's his name again?
Dan Thorough, spacebiff.com.
Spacebiff.com. Thank you. I will go look up his stuff.
Subscribe. You'll get like 2 emails a week. His stuff is brilliant, and he focuses on... So there are 2 narratives in every game. There's the narrative that the game presents, and then there's the narrative that the players create while they play, right? Like Dan Thorough writes about both. He writes about the narrative the players created while they play. I'm sorry, he writes about the game's narrative through the context of the narrative the players create while they play.
Perfect. And that's really what I'm very interested in. I know my game is done. Like I've said this before, I know my game is done when people talk about the game in a very live fashion. Like when I did this happened, and then I thought I could do this, and I was doing this because this represents this to me, and that's engagement, and that's cool, and that's an experience, and that's what I want to hear about, that this game brought me this. Because, and I'll put it out there, a game like So Sentinels of the Multiverse is a game that sometimes I rag on it a little bit, sorry guys, but it's one of those things. So Sentinels of the Multiverse, I read the back of the box, I watched some, component or unboxing of it, so yeah, it looks okay, let's get it. But it doesn't give me, the game didn't give me the feels of being a superhero that I think, if there was somebody who could write a review about the experiences of the players, or did do that better than what I found, then I would have been a little more informed. And I'm not saying it's a bad game. I'm saying it wasn't a game for me or didn't meet my expectations. That's really what it is.
Yeah,
because there's definitely some cool parts about the game.
If the feeling was conveyed accurately, then you could have made a more accurate choice.
Yeah, that's basically it.
I think the challenge with that in order for it to be a financially viable thing for you to be a full-time reviewer, which 4 or 5 people are, you have to...
North America.
Yes. You have to do so many reviews. You have to produce so much content. Because in order to get to the top, you had to do that in the first place, and then to stay there, you have to continue doing that. And it's so much work. The idea, you can read a rule book and play a game once and get a feel for it. A feel that's good enough for you to give a rule overview.
This is it. For sure.
But in order to know confidently how it plays, how it plays with different types of people, how it plays with different groups, there's such a huge time investment in that it's not a viable thing if you want to make a living at it.
Yeah.
But this is though I love that point, but then this is where I'm confused, is the hobbyist who's making videos should actually be king, because they're just putting out a few with passion instead of the professional who's pounding them out.
We hope they do, but a lot of them just emulate what the professionals do.
Yeah, I agree with that, but that's where I go, the person who only puts out one a month, I want that person to just crush it, just make me fall in love or hate or be intrigued or I don't know.
I mean, there's the arms race too for being the first one to have a review out, and the first when the game is new having a review out. So there's a rush there.
Yeah.
And I think you shut up and sit down, doing one a week that is well produced, that is that kind of thing is more what they're looking at. But again, they're coming from video game journalism, and they've figured out how to monetize it in a different way that works. And they have other revenue streams, writing for other things. So
I don't know if a game for them is necessarily they're trying to evoke the emotion of the game. I think they're trying to put together a good episode. I think that's also more the motivation there.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're the model that everybody should strive for. It's the thing that Sen said earlier, where it's the fact that you are basically self-employed if you're doing this. There's nobody that can pay for all this stuff for you to actually have unbiased journalism.
Disney's not buying the Dice Tower anytime soon.
Yeah, exactly. So
we need the Spiel to start a North American division.
Yeah, but North American reviewer could work with Spiel.
Spiel de Jar?
Yeah, because it is part of the rules for Spiel de Jaris that none of their judges at any level, anywhere in the organization, can have any professional tie to any job in the industry at all.
Correct, or have designed a game.
Right, they allow none of that, right? They keep it completely separate, man, checks and balances.
I love that, though. That's where I say, if they came over and they started unleashing some fans of board games to critically and passionately write what they love about the games they're playing.
Yeah, but I mean, every board game reviewer here secretly just wants to get a job working for whatever company just posted that they're hiring, right?
AEG this time.
AEG this week.
Right.
But what if that job could be reviewing board games that is from someone else? I mean, it's a thing where the only thing that I see realistically that has the money to do it would be Board Game Geek, and they don't need to do it because their whole site is people passionally talking about.
They're a meta collector of other people's reviews, right?
Right, and so I don't. The industry keeps growing, and I think that will happen. It won't be us though. It's gonna be video game sites like Polygon or AB Club or those sites that are already starting to do board game content.
Well, you see them picking up on like when Bloodborne the news was released. They're up on that because it's a video game IP, right?
Right.
Yeah. It's important to see that, like, it won't come. The big monetization won't come because somebody builds an audience. It'll be somebody bringing an audience to the hobby, right?
Probably. Yeah.
Well, I saw something that fascinated me today was Polygon reported on both the BGG Golden Geek Awards and the RPG Awards, and the RPG one actually had a rundown of every single one of those RPGs.
That's interesting.
It was super valuable because I knew like 4 of them, but the indie RPG world is like pretty separate, and I'm into it, but like I didn't really know about a bunch of them.
It's quite huge because self-publishing that stuff is relatively easy.
But like, there's not
producing, right?
Right. There's not the crossover, and it's board games are a whole deep rabbit hole that you go down. And that's a different one. And
yeah.
Even though I literally
I'm totally
whole shelf. Yeah. I mean, like, here, I will show you. This entire shelf right here is just indie board games, indie RPGs. This entire thing. This is mainstream ones. This is indies. And I still feel like I have no idea what's going on in the board game world or in the RPG world.
Like every day, somebody will tell me a new one-shot I should play.
Yeah.
I love one-shot RPGs.
And there are
of them.
fascinating things happening there because there's not a ton of money to be had, but there's not a ton of costs in producing it.
No, and they're wonderful, wonderful.
So there's all sorts of risk. It's cool.
Food Truck Destruction Derby, hey?
That's the new one-shot you should play, being co-published by Waitress Games and Ninth Level Games.
Who's in Waitress Games there, JR?
Me, Brian, Cody, and Philip.
The Fight Master. Cool.
Maybe a new guy, depending on whether or not that works out. So we'll see.
Excellent. One other thing that... so I've actually heard from several people, actually lots of people, we're talking about Shut Up and Sit Down, was that they actually feel that they misrepresent some games on their show because they are, like Daryl said, looking for making a good episode as opposed to reviewing a game properly. Thoughts?
I wouldn't say misrepresent. I would say that they are looking for a different thing in games than I am looking for, and they are very wisely targeting a different audience than a lot of hardcore board game people.
Interesting. Yep.
I would definitely say the audience is a major factor. I would also say there's a freedom in creativity and art that maybe, the game isn't the centerpiece of the story. So I think them as characters are actually a more central piece to their storytelling, and they're using the game as some tool to get to a certain story.
Yeah, it doesn't.
We can experience them, not experience the game.
It feels like every episode of Shut Up and Sit Down that I've watched, and I've probably bought a half dozen games because of the reviews. It isn't like this episode's about this game. It's like this episode is about Paul and Quinn's who played a game.
Yeah, Paul and Quinn who played a game, and you might also like it.
Yeah, it was like what they did, but it wasn't the point of the show.
Right. Yeah. I wouldn't say they misrepresent it though, because I don't think for the sake of the show they will say they like a game they don't like or dislike a game they do like.
Right. I would say this though, they're definitely not making content the way that a publisher wants them to make content.
Thank God for that.
I'm not saying that. Yeah,
I don't know, man. I think they sell more games than the Dice Tower does. So I
think
feel
they sell, but I think they also crush. I think there's some games that are killed.
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like so here's my thing. I don't agree with them a lot. Like a lot of the time.
Yep.
But I also don't watch them for that reason.
Right.
I know the kind of experience they're looking to have a new, unique experience that the people at the table are all having a blast, that can bring new people into the hobby.
Yep.
And I like Euro games. Like, I play everything, but my favorite games are like mid-weight Euro games.
Same.
And those aren't those games.
No.
And that's fine. It's the same with the Dice Tower. Like, knowing the reviewer, I can watch a thing, whether or not they like it, and decide whether or not I like it.
Sure.
And I understand that they are they're really approaching it. Their audience is their audience, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of their audience doesn't own games that they haven't reviewed. They go with them because that's their only window.
Just
into
like tabletop, right? Just like tabletop, as seen on tabletop.
Yeah.
That's a really, really interesting point, Chris, because you really do need to know your audience.
Yeah.
As a reviewer, as a content provider, as a content creator, and vice versa. Your audience needs to know you. Like if you're just looking for reviews, you need to know what biases and quirks that particular reviewer has before you can put as much weight into their rating of a game, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I struggle with it with the board game news every week, where my board game news is for people that are heavily into the hobby.
Yep.
And when it was on the Moonrat channel, which it was for years, I'd get about 2,000 views a week, which is fine. I'm happy with that. And I just moved it to its own channel so that Board with Life could kind of take the front seat, and we didn't want to scare people off because we feel like our show can be watched by people that don't like board games and be a nice introduction.
Totally.
But if the next video is like a thing about this whole industry they don't know, it'd scare them off. So we moved it to a new channel.
I was wondering about that. I like that. I was just curious why that. That makes sense.
Yeah, and so now it gets about 600 views a week, and I'm sure it'll go up from there because it moved and blah blah. But because it is so kind of inside baseball, right? It's for people that keep up week to week with stuff.
Totally.
I wonder a lot if I should stop doing the most recent news and start like doing more explanation. I'll mention a designer's name offhand and not explain what they've done, anything like that. Yep. Where when I first started, if I said Antoine Bauza has a new game, or Antoine Bauza just won the Spiel des Jahres for Hanabi, he's designed these games, and I'd like pick up the game, show them, talk about the game, stuff like that. Which for us, we don't need to know that. We know who Antoine Bauza is.
Yeah.
So I kind of have been going back and forth on where I need to fall on that.
I mean, that's a level of accessibility, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And right now it's not, because most people that are, so people that go to Gen Con, what, 20% of those people know Uwe Rosenberg? 10%? Like,
I would say less. Yeah.
That's like a foregone, obviously, he's a superstar. It's like saying Martin Scorsese is for directors. But most people, fans of board games that are spending money, have no clue who designed them.
Well, to be honest, that's part of our origin story, was that we were like, it's crazy that every reviewer is like worshipped at a con, but then they're chatting to a designer saying like, oh, what's next thing and people are interrupting constantly the reviewer.
Yeah.
And their favorite designer is right there, and they have no clue.
I mean, it's like actors versus directors, right? Like, I come from a filmmaking background, so I'm excited about the director, but most people are excited about the actor talking to the director, and that's really what we are on the media side, is we are the face of things.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's so very, very interesting. Just a shout out to John and Ben and Matt for reaching #1 on the hotness with Wasteland Express.
Oh, nicely done, gentlemen.
Yeah. They just got
super pumped about that game. I was just looking at my transporter map the other day.
Every time I think of that game, I think Daryl make that game. Wait a minute.
It's so funny. For anyone who doesn't know this story, it's actually...
wait a second. JR is fading out.
Oh, JR's gotta go.
I'm gonna go to bed. Chris, it's good to see you, man.
Yeah.
You too.
All right. We'll talk to you later, JR.
This will be my last one. Good night, JR.
Good night, guys.
One of the follow-up game designs that Steve and I did from the Walled City is we were like, oh, let's do something that's a little more like Ameritrash. And so we came up with a game that project name was Transporter, and it was like you souped up these trucks in a post-apocalyptic world. It was a pickup and delivery. There were 4 major gangs.
And it was based on Daryl moving to Kitchener, where everything that you had to go through like
roundabouts.
12 roundabouts to get to his house. It was crazy.
So I just like all of a sudden I drove through these roundabouts and I came up with a game mechanic. I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna apply this, but to that world, do something with like souping up these cool like trucks. We made it. We pitched it. A bunch of people liked it, but then a whole bunch of people were like, no, that's too dark a theme. You should change it. And so we changed it to like New York City cabs.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Getting Ketchkey.
And oh man, it sucked. I remember going and having I had a meeting at Z-Man headquarters, and they're like, yeah, let's see the changes. And I dropped it, and we played a few rounds, and they were just like, where's that game where you like it was like kind of like cool, like you added guns to your, like it was all dark and posted. I'm like, we were told that that theme would never sell, and we just shelved it, and now I get to see what could have been.
I had that with Crazy Carts, seeing Crazy Carts coming out. I designed that game. I was like, what if Robo Rally was like a team game with like 2 players? Nobody's making team games, and like both of you were like controlling the same thing, and you had to kind of, and I was like, oh. Yeah. Oh, dang it.
Dang. But in a weird way, I'm actually really happy because now I get to see the game that I dreamed of, and I get to play it. And I'm a big fan of Ben and Matt and John, so I'm like, sweet. Well, I get to play the game I wished was in the world.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe that will inform your decisions in terms of if you revive the other design, right?
Sure. Now we differentiate and we think
it's definitely a different game. The mechanics are horribly different.
The mechanics were totally different. It was just, it's just funny over time, and I'm sure this happens more and more with designers. Parallel design.
Yeah.
Like so many designs coming out.
That would be a good topic one day.
We're being inspired by each other's work. So it just happens. So
Yeah, very cool. It is 1:30 in the freaking morning. Holy cow.
This
it's
is
time
awesome,
for bed.
Chris.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chris.
Yeah, glad to.
And to our fans out there, keep throwing us messages and ideas, and honestly, your interaction with like topics and just chatting with us inspires us and really gives us a lot of good material. So and that's what we're doing over the summer. So please, especially, let us know what ideas and topics you want us to cover. Let us know what guests you would love to hear from.
Yeah, let us know kind of anything. I mean, like somebody just said, maybe you could have a designer bio on the Meeple Syrup page, and that's a great idea.
That's a great idea.
Is to have designer bios just of everybody we've ever had as a guest.
Exactly. So all that stuff, we're in like eat it up mode. We're trying to gather all that good stuff and hopefully start in September with a lot of your ideas. So with that said, thank you very much. Keep making great games, and we look forward to trying them soon. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.